Today I want to help you with some of the normal distribution problems from 12.4. I want to help you see that it is just a little bit of a puzzle and that the visual tool they provide is really important, and that when they don't provide it, you can simply draw your own. So the first two examples do have the normal curve provided for you. This problem is about car prices. They tell us that the mean is 23,000 and that the standard deviation is 1,000. So you can see that they have the mean marked here as 23,000 and that they add up by thousands as they go to the right of the mean and subtract by thousands as they go to the left of the mean. And they also have the percentages in that 68, 95, 99.7 rule marked out on there as well. This question is asking for the percentage of buyers that paid between 21,000 and 23,000. So the first thing you need to do is look at the diagram and see the region that they're referring to. So they are referring to here between 21 and 23. We're really finding the area of all of this, but this is where our focus is. The next thing we want to do is see which of those percentage ranges is being discussed when you talk about these numbers. Well, the 23 is just the median, and that will come into play in a second. The mean, sorry, that will come into play in a second. But the 21 happens to be the end of the 95% bar that we see there. So the 95% bar goes all the way over to 25, but we don't want to go all the way over to 25. We only want the left half of that. And that is why we are going to take the 95% that would go all the way from 21,000 to 25,000 and recognize that we only want the bottom, the left half of that. And that is how we get 47.5%. So that means that of that 95, 47.5% over here and 47.5% over there, and that's how you get the total of 95%. So our answer to this problem is the 47.5%. Let's look at one more. It's the same story. It happens to have a different mean, but we have the new picture provided. So in this one, we have a mean of 21,000, but still a standard deviation of 1,000. You can see they've labeled with their standard deviations and with their percentage ranges. This time the question is who paid less than 19,000. So we go look at our diagram and we think about what they are referring to, that we want only the things less than to the left of the $19,000 there. The next step is to see which of our ranges lines up with that information, and it's the 95% that ends there at that number 19 that is mentioned. And so we realize we have to do something with this 95%, but the 95% is part of the area that's not highlighted, that I don't care about. So I am going to use that to work towards the area that is highlighted that we are looking for. I need to take that whole picture as 100%, subtract off the 95%, and I get 5%. But that 5% is divided up equally between the numbers less than 19, the bottom of the 95% range, and more than 23, the area above the top of the 95% range. I don't want the 95%, and I don't want that other half that's up there. I only want the half of the 5% that is below 19. So I'm going to take the 5% and divide it by 2 to see that there's 2.5% in each of those places we discussed. So 2.5% falls here and 2.5% falls here, and that's how, if you add 2.5 and 95 and another 2.5, you get the whole picture, which is 100%. So we were looking for just this lower 2.5%. Let's look at one more. This one does not give the picture, but we can draw it for ourselves. It does not have to be beautiful. I can promise you mine will not be. But you just want to make a normal curve. You need to mark the mean in the middle and then go up 1, 2, 3 standard deviations and down 1, 2, 3 standard deviations. They tell us that the mean is 16 and that the standard deviation is 4. So I will add by 4s as I go to the right, and I will subtract by 4s as I label to the left of the mean 16. Then we read the question and see that it is asking about what is above 4. So we want all of this area from 4 all the rest of the way. We want all of that is what we're trying to find. We also, and we could have done this before we started highlighting, need to label the percentages. They didn't give us the picture, but they did remind us of those percentages. So we know 1 standard deviation out is 68, 2 out is the next number they gave us, 95, and 3 standard deviations out is the 99.7%. So the range that ends at the number of interest that they gave us, 4, is the 99.7. So it's that number that's going to be part of our puzzle in solving this. If we consider, we know that 99.7 is between 4 and 28. To answer the rest of this question, we need to know what's outside of that. So if we take the full 100 and subtract off the 99.7%, we get 0.3%. But we need to keep in mind that that 0.3 is divided up between the 2 halves that are outside of the 99.7. So it's divided up evenly between less than 4 and more than 28. So if I take that 0.3 and divide it by 2, I see that what that means is there is 0.15% below 4 and 0.15% above 28. You can check this to see that 0.15 below 4 plus 99.7 between 4 and 28 plus 0.15 above 28 should equal 100, and it does. So the question says which ones lie above 4. That means I want everything except this area. The only area I don't want is that's below 4. So I want everything out of 100 except that 0.15% that we have figured out is below 4 or less than 4. And that is how we get 99.85% as our final answer of the area of the yellow highlighted, everything that's above 4. So that one really is about as bad as they get. We had to draw our own picture, but they remind us of the numbers to label it with the rule of the percentages. And we did have kind of 3 steps there that we needed to see how much was outside of the 99.7 by subtracting, and then remember that we are talking about just half of that, the part that's below 4. So divide by 2 to see that the part below 4 is 0.15, and then that's the only part that we don't want out of 100, so then we needed to subtract that from the 100. So if you can rewind and kind of walk through this one again, if you can understand how to do this one, then you can do any of them, whether they give you the picture or not, because as you saw, the previous 2 didn't have as many steps as this one. So you should be able to tackle anything after this. So hopefully this will help you with your 12.4 homework with some of these normal distribution problems, and good luck with that.